Hello students. So as you know, we are talking about culture today and how geography can affect culture. And we are looking at the Gullah Geechee culture, people that live along the sea islands of South Carolina and also Georgia. And the reason I am standing in front of this plant is because this is rice. This is Carolina gold rice. And this is a plant that is grown, and it was grown historically along the coast of South Carolina. And certainly the Gullah Geechee people would be growing this and using this as part of their food source. We're going to head into a special cabin that we have out here on the Living History Farm. And we're going to look at some other foods that would be important to the Gullah Geechee culture. All right, students, so now we're in the Williams Earl cabin that I told you about earlier. And I have set up on the table some foods that would be important to the Gullah culture. And so the things on this side, these are foods that are native to Africa. Maybe you didn't know that. So things like coffee, black-eyed peas, sesame, okra, and this is rice. Not all rice is native to Africa, but this one is. This is Carolina gold. So we could also have on this table things like watermelons, peanuts would be common. Not from Africa, but a common dish or food that they would eat. So I have some things that are prepared, and you would see these certainly on a Gullah table. So these are sweet potatoes. This is tomatoes and okra that's been cooked, rice that's been cooked, grits that are not cooked. And so these things are part of their culture, part of the common things that you would see on the table. Think about what is common on your table in your family. That's part of your family's culture, right? Turn over here. This is a craft that, it's an art form, and it is unique to people from West Africa, the Gullah Geechee folks that live on the coast of South Carolina. So this tradition of making these sweetgrass baskets has been handed down, has been taught for generations and generations. And you can see I've got several examples of the baskets here and some of the material that would make these up. So this is sweetgrass. This, which looks like a broken spoon, we call this a nail bone. And this would be used to make a space while they are making the basket, to make a space to then weave in the material that weaves or sews the sweetgrass together. So this is a coiled basket. You can see that the material goes around and around in a circle as opposed to a woven basket. So a very important art form and tradition from Africa that's been passed down. And they are very beautiful, but they're also very useful. And so people that were brought over from Africa were making these to make their lives easier, or to make useful things to be able to carry on their daily tasks. So these are sweetgrass baskets. All right, so students, we were talking about the Gullah people and their different foods that they eat, things that would be common on the table. And these people, they, for many generations, lived in isolated communities off the coast of South Carolina and Georgia. So just think of small islands or marshy areas where it's very wet, which is a condition that is conducive to growing rice. And so their cuisine, the things that they eat commonly, would be rice-based. And it would not be unusual for families to have rice 7 days a week. Some people even eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So a very common thing, like maybe your family eats bread at every meal. So think about rice being that staple that you would have all the time. So they would grow rice in their gardens and then be able to process it and have it for their food. Now, have you ever thought about how rice gets from the plant, like what we saw at the beginning of this video, to on your table? Well, I'm going to show you how it's processed. So here's some rice that's just been cut. This is just a small example. What they would do is cut a big bunch of rice and tie it together and stand it up and let it dry out. And once it's dried, they would thresh it, which means you're going to hit it with something. Either you're hitting it with a flail or a stick, or even a long time ago, they'd have animals walk over it. And once you get the rice off, then you would need to put it down in a mortar. And so I've put rice down in here. This is a mortar. It's a log that's kind of been hollowed out. And then this stick is called a pestle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the rice. And so after you hit the rice for a little while, what happens is it knocks the shells off. And then you would need to separate the two. You need to separate the shells from the rice. Right, so I'm taking the rice out of the mortar, and I've got the rice and I've got the shells in here. And this is a winnowing basket. It's really wide and it's not very deep. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to toss it in the air. We have a little bit of a breeze here, and so I'm expecting the chaff, which is the shell, that outer husk, to fall on the ground. So let's see what happens here. Right, so hopefully that's able to be seen. So I'm starting to see mostly rice here. We still have a lot of the shells or the husk over on this side. And if I keep doing this over and over, then eventually that would be cleaned. Let's see if we can get a little more off. All right, so we've gotten pretty good, but it needs a little bit more time in the mortar. So you would have to do this several more times until you ended up with just the white rice. All right, students, so we have looked at some different aspects of the culture of Gullah people, in particular their foods. We have some holidays coming up. A good time of year to be thinking about the culture in your family. Are there traditions that you practice at every single holiday? Something that you always eat, say, in the winter holidays, maybe Thanksgiving or Christmas or other holidays throughout the year. Something that's specific to your family. And maybe things are going to be a little bit different this time for your holidays. Maybe this is a good year for you to start a new tradition. You know, at some point, all of the traditions, all the customs, all the parts of your culture, it was brand new to you or somebody in your family. Somebody started it. So maybe this is a good opportunity for you to start a new one.